Welcome back to Deal Nation, where we tap into Launch Control's nationwide network of investors, coaches, and strategic partners to find out what's bringing in deals and how we can all work together to build generational wealth. We're joined today by Stephanie Betters, the founder of LeftMain REI. Stephanie, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm excited to have this conversation. One, you're just a pillar in the REI community, a big help for anybody that's scaling up their business. But also, you and I have hosted I don't know how many podcasts together, and I've never had a chance to just chat with you one on one and talk about how you got started in the business and all that. So yeah,
Nice.
definitely excited to jump in.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. What got you involved in REI? What were you doing before? How'd the whole Stephanie Better's origin story start?
Um, I think I don't know. I think it's a little bit of an interesting journey, maybe a little bit unusual from the normal story that we hear, but it's mine. So my husband and I actually both started in '07 together. So many moons ago now. '07, by the way, it sounded like a great idea to flip a house.
I was going to say that's interesting timing for starting.
Everybody was like, "That's a great idea." Yeah. So in '07, we had just graduated undergrad, and we got married, had nothing, tons of school debt. We're trying to figure out what to do. Should we rent? Should we buy? Couldn't really afford to buy, but then we found a really dilapidated, foreclosed house. Well, my husband found it and convinced me to buy it, and I was not on board. Okay, like carrying me across the threshold to a nicer house, please. But I got on board for sure pretty quickly. So we lived in the house and we flipped it, and we sold it like literally 2 weeks before the market crashed. It was unbelievable timing.
Yeah.
Um, and then we went off to grad school. So I went off to study to be a nurse practitioner, and Zach went off to study to be a physician assistant. So we didn't do any real estate while we were in grad school. And when we graduated, we were trying to find a place that we could get back into real estate. He was like, "Let's do it again. That was awesome. We made money. Let's do it." And I was much more in the boat of, I thought we were going to start a family, and we have all this debt. We just went through grad school. Can we like get settled? And my deal was, we can do it again, but not until we can afford to not have to live in the house and flip it. So that was kind of my criteria, because that was really difficult. First,
Yeah.
couple years of marriage to live in a foreclosed house and fix it up. It was. I have a little sheetrock PTSD, let's say. So we were living on Long Island, New York at the time, trying to figure out where we were going to settle, and we chose Charlotte, North Carolina, because of the medical career options here are really really wonderful, and the real estate market was great, and it was near an international airport. So kind of check those boxes. We had never been here before. We just did some market analysis and really really saw that it followed the Raleigh Durham area and the Jacksonville market in Florida. They were very similar. We found that those markets were kind of a few years ahead, but Charlotte was trending in those similar directions. So it felt like a calculated bet that we could probably do something decent with real estate in Charlotte. So we moved down here. I started work as a nurse practitioner doing heart surgery in Uptown Charlotte, and Zach started working as a PA in urgent care. And we did that for a couple of years. Had a couple more kids, and then basically he was waiting on me to come on board to buy our first property, and we bought our first rental property. And I got over a lot of my fear after doing that. I was like, "Hey, the world didn't end. It's fine."
Yeah.
The house, we got a decent loan on it. We did the whole traditional 20% down type of loan, and like I said, the world didn't end, and I wasn't scared anymore. And I was like, okay, I think I'm on board. Let's start a business. Like I think we can do this. But we quickly realized that with all of our student loan debt that we had, and we had over $200,000 at the time of student
Oh
loan debt,
wow.
like a ton. Plus, we were living in a house, so we had a mortgage. And then we just bought a rental that took all of our savings out, basically, even though it was inexpensive, like 10, 15K just goes when you buy a rental. We all know that. So I was like, well, this math isn't going to work. How are we going to buy more rentals? So, the only solution to that was to do some flips and more flips so that we could buy more rentals. And we really organized that around 2014, and tried to find good deals to flip. And then we had too many deals, because we made 1 million offers and two offers got accepted at the same time. And we kind of found ourselves in this gamut, and we were trying to flip, and then our crews were busy. This deal coming down our pipeline, we couldn't close on because it would wait forever. So we started wholesaling, and we flipped and wholesaled for about 5 years until we merged with a local partner here named Jeff, who was doing some flips and some new build construction. And that was in 2018. We merged companies, and then we were doing all three. And then shortly after that merge, and shortly after our volume went significantly higher, we had a huge problem with figuring out our systems and processes and data, and trying to have good business operations, and we have a predictable, profitable business. So we had a lot of challenges there that needed solving. And, kind of quickly fast forwarding to today, we are only now building new construction houses and wholesaling.
Oh,
And
wow.
and we take our profit, our personal profit from the company, and we go and we buy rentals. But we took this whole big detour really to start building a company and turning this thing into a machine that would actually spin off some cash so that we could personally buy rentals. We didn't buy rentals for like 5 years,
Yeah.
which felt so wrong. This is what we did it for. What are we doing? But it did eventually come back around, and now we have a nice rental portfolio that my husband and I own together, and a couple other really cool business opportunities spun off of the challenges and things that we had to solve for Better Path Homes. And we're in a place now I never thought we'd be. It's kind of
That's
crazy.
amazing.
I've left medicine. I left medicine 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I worked full time for 10 years while doing all this stuff. And my husband left urgent care a little bit before that. I want to say 7 or 8 years ago he left. So basically, as soon as we had any financial stability, he was like, "I'm out."
Yeah.
These hours are wild. I hung on for quite a bit.
Yeah,
So
it's that's funny because, like, I feel like I'm more like you. I'm very conservative when it comes to those kinds of things, and, like, I'm very risk adverse, I guess would be the right way to say it, right? Very risk adverse. But I know, like, there are thousands of investors out there that are just itching to make the jump, right? As soon as you can get out of the full-time gig, let's get out of the full-time gig.
yeah,
So yeah, it's interesting trying to figure out what that point of what the parachute point is, right, and when to do it comfortably. Um, One thing is I want to go back to Charlotte, if you don't mind,
sure.
because I'm curious about this. You said you did market research, and this is me, like, my own, like, kind of risk adverse way of looking at things. Looking into new markets, um, and I think this is true for a lot of people. Like, what are you looking for in the numbers to tell you, or looking for in the area in particular, to tell you that it's a safe bet? Is, like, I grew up in California, the home prices are outrageous, right? So if somebody wanted to get into this in their home market, and they live in, like, the San Francisco Bay Area, it's the entry point is so difficult,
Yeah.
right? Whereas, you can go into other markets in other states, and the risk profile seems much, much less. But, what are the winters like, and is it cyclical, and, like, so what are some of the parameters that you looked into for just diving into a market that you didn't really know going in?
Yeah, so I mean, we were coming right off of the bubble bursting and the mortgage industry failing. So what we specifically looked at, what was really important for me, and I'll say I'm risk tolerant. I'm not risk adverse, but my husband is much more he's like risk happy. He's like, yes,
Hmm.
where I'm kind of in the middle of the road. But what was really important to me was to look at price trends and house sales through that crash. And what I wanted to see was the median home price didn't correct more than 5%,
Okay.
because you know luxury market obviously crashed the hardest. It was not median home prices, but if the median home price slowed down, that meant there are other factors at play, like job growth, population growth, etc. So number one thing we looked at was, how did that market tolerate the crash? And Charlotte was like right there, like 3 to 5% in differentials in sales prices. And when this was now in 2012. No, we moved here in 2011. Yeah. So what we were looking for then also was job growth, population growth. Like what is the MSA of Charlotte, and what's the line in the sand, right? So we looked at the size of Charlotte and the size of job growth here, and it really looked the same as Raleigh, Durham, and Jacksonville, except Raleigh, Durham, and Jacksonville had higher price points. Like you could see that the price growth was high. The delta was higher in those markets. So, but it went through kind of a similar growth period prior to the crash. So our educated guess was these should continue to grow, and they seem to be behaving the same as these other markets. They're about the same size, about the same average, median sales price. It should behave about the same. Maybe it's just
Hmm.
lagging a few years behind. So that's what we looked at. So to your point, median sale price was a huge factor. It's
Yeah.
expensive in Charlotte than it was in New York, Long Island, New York, where you couldn't buy a freaking shack for $500,000 at the time. It's probably worse now. We looked at really nice houses where $250,000 in 2011. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. No.
that's what we looked
Sure. So when you really got into wholesaling, right? When you kind of made that jump and got into wholesaling, were there any other additional factors that you were looking into that were related to distress profiles, essentially? So you knew that you were able to identify within a specific market whether it was wholesaling friendly or off market friendly, that kind of thing.
No, we didn't know anything about it, to be honest. I wish I
Yeah.
could say something like that we had known and we're really calculated about that, but that was never really our intention. When we first started, we just wanted to buy rental properties, and I wanted to make a safe investment in a rental property that didn't lose value. So that was
Yeah.
kind of the lens I was looking at it through. But I didn't even know what wholesaling was until the month we did it.
Yeah, it's curious because I had a conversation here on Deal Nation recently, and we were talking about this topic, and it what the guest said, and it surprised me a little bit, but then I thought about it and it kind of made sense. Was um, it's easier to find a wholesaling deal in areas where wholesaling deals have been done recently, right? So like the idea I think going in oftentimes is, oh, I'm going to be the only person in a market, and then I'll be able to just own that market. But then when you do that, what actually happens is that there's almost no off market awareness
Yeah,
in
you really
that market.
you're gonna get hit by a
Yeah.
branch, you know?
Yeah, so it's like there's no seller awareness, and with no seller awareness, like you're the hurdle you have to get over is, or the education hurdle you have to get over is quite big. Whereas if it's in a market where wholesaling has been done, a neighbor talked to a neighbor, people that are in a distressed situation know you actually have a more likelihood of closing quickly, which, yeah, it struck me as it was a bit of a surprise at first. Then I thought about it and I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny to look at it now too and compare it to what was normal in 2014, and because that's kind of really where I'm like, okay, we that's when we really established our business. Uh,
Hmm.
was in 2014. Back in 14, wholesaling was not as popular. I mean, it was happening for sure because we did it,
Yeah.
and we kind of like stumbled upon it, but it wasn't as popular as it is now. And off market sales were also not very popular. So, I think what helped us honestly the most get traction was some of these large REITs coming into the market, like OfferPad, Open Door, Zillow. Goodness, they all came, right? And they really normalized private sales to private investors because they were used to seeing these cash offer programs,
Hmm.
all over TV and all over billboards, and a ton of money was being pumped in to the market to educate homeowners for that. But prior to, and that was probably in like 16-ish, those couple years prior to it, this was really a big obstacle to teach homeowners about. Like, well, I can sell it directly to you. I'm like, absolutely, you can. Just like you can sell your car. You don't have to go to the car dealer to sell a car. You sell it
Yeah.
privately in the newspaper, just like you can sell a house privately. But I remember we had so many more of those conversations. And then after 16, when the REITs came in, everyone was like, oh yeah, this sounds super convenient. I'd love a cash offer. So while it made marketing difficult, like you said, like
Yeah.
We have to now compete. It also made the deal easier because someone else had already established it.
Well, I mean, normally I save the "where's the industry going" kind of question towards the end of the session here, but I want to jump in a little early because something you just said I think is very interesting, and which is the rise in awareness of of selling on a private. Would you say the private market or selling? Yeah. So the rise of awareness in the private market and coupling that with changes to broker-based sales and broker-based commission structure. Like, how do you see though that combination of things changing, coming in or the profile of private-based sales rising given those recent changes?
I think we're going to continue to see it rise. So back in 14, 1 in 10 houses were owned by an entity. Now
Yeah.
we're looking at 1 in 4 are
Oh
owned.
wow.
It is
Okay.
wild, and that's partly being skewed um, by companies coming in and building to rent and owning so many single family homes and just
Sure.
using their rental model. But REITs and Wall Street have really, really affected Main Street to the effect that you know literally 25% of single family homes in large metro areas are owned by some sort of entity, whether it be private small businesses like us or gigantic firms, yeah, that are buying the tens of thousands. So I think we'll continue to see that rise. I think we'll continue to see this build to rent model rise. I think single family homes are going to have a lot of competition with banks and entities for ownership. I think
Hmm.
it will be difficult for our children to compete in the market to buy a house if it keeps going the way it's going. You know, the other thing that I think is that's driving a lot of that growth is the way REITs are looking at homes. They're looking at them like assets, like investments, like data.
Mm.
So the way they are buying properties, they're trying to be predictive about pricing. They're almost kind of sidelining the broker opinion, right? I'll just tell you what my math says this house should sell for, right? And then that's the cash offer that they make. And obviously, we saw what happened with Zillow. If that wasn't correct, right?
Right.
But that progress is still being made. I think that, especially on the tech side of real estate, prop tech in general, and the tools that we use as investors specifically are are going to be more tech dependent so that we can make better offers and choose better deals to keep up with these gigantic entities that are pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into trying to figure out how to dominate the single family market.
Hmm.
So I think tech is going to continue to be a huge piece of this.
Okay, so I have a multi-stage follow-up for
Okay.
you here.
Okay.
Um, all right. So in right now, in anything wholesale off market and basic anything off market, right? Wholesale subject to novations, whatever. We are getting wholesalers to react to something, or wholesalers, sellers to react to something that they did not know was an opportunity,
Mhm.
right? Like they all knew that if they had enough money to fix up a house, they could sell it through a licensed real estate agent and hopefully make a profit. Everybody knows that. Not everybody knows that there are off market opportunities. So all of the marketing is based off of staging an opportunity, then building solutions, finding out your motivation, all of that, right? But like providing solutions after awareness has been set, right? So it's they're reacting to us. They're not going in and looking for solutions themselves without that kind of activation point, right? But as the awareness profile goes up of private market opportunities, you're going to have people that are going to go in looking for solutions unprompted, right? That's just going to be the nature of it. So the first part of my question is not an investor to investor question, but just for the seller. If you were a seller and you wanted to find out about off market opportunities, what would you do if you were just going into it fresh?
And you're saying off market opportunities mean like I want to buy an off market or I
No,
want to.
no, sorry. I have this house. I don't have the 20 grand needed to do the work that needs to go into it. I know I can sell this on a privately because I've been hearing a lot about this.
Mhm.
I want to see how I can do this. As a seller, just doing that early stage research, like what would you do to as someone that wanted to sell a house they couldn't sell otherwise to find the best opportunity?
Well, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit in the sense that, people may not know what to do. I think people do know, and most
Okay.
homeowners know that they can get a cash offer for their house. And then I guess that could be market dependent on how populated the area is that you're living. But I would say I would feel pretty safe in saying that most metro areas have a pretty significant presence of cash offers, and that most
Yeah.
homeowners know that this is an option. So I think that they would just go on Google and search get a cash offer for my house, or they would want to list it for sale by owner. I think most people would rather get a cash offer for their house than list for sale by owner. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think that motion has been established that that's what they would do. So what it behooves us to do really is to get them before they're searching. How do we identify people who may want to sell this way? You know?
Yeah, so that was the second part of my question, is if people are gonna go in and even if their thing that they Google is, "Can I get a cash offer for my house?" Or "How do I sell my house without an agent?" Whatever. How do we get in front of that so that we can get to them at the very, very earliest stage of consideration?
Yeah, I think market presence is huge, right? That basically what's happening is we have a subset of homeowners who are looking for a different type of marketplace. And the gold standard marketplace has been MLS for decades and decades, right? And
Right.
that's slowly being displaced. So I don't think that people know otherwise other than searching until they're contacted. So I think the way that we act before they search so that we can be found or that we can hit them at the right moment is to have market presence, right? Like be online, have a website, have all these things, that kind of the basics, right? But then also really understand that motivation from the seller and the factors centered around that homeowner themselves and the property characteristics or the location of the property that make people more amenable to selling, to selling off market or to selling in a motivated type of environment where they'd want a cash offer. Because I'll tell you, I'm going to sell my house for the most possible way. I'm going to go through all the heartache of listing and cleaning and all the crap to list it on MLS. I want the highest and best offer. I'm not motivated to sell it quickly, right? I'm not the avatar for this. It'd be
Of
convenient
course.
to not have to pay an agent, but like basically that's all I'm worried about is convenience, and so I'm not motivated. So, to answer your question, I think there's a lot of publicly available data um, to help us get that, like who's in foreclosure, who has 30, 60, 90-day lates, who has bad credit, who's getting divorced, who has a probate, who has a tenant that they're about to evict or they filed for eviction.
Sure.
Those characteristics will identify homeowners personally that you then can reach out to via text message, call, mail piece. There's only like six different ways you can actually talk to somebody, right?
Yeah.
TV, radio, billboard, right? And having and getting in front of those people so they see your face and they see your value prop.
One of like the basic like best practices for someone who's trying to build up a marketing business
Mhm.
is to pick a niche, right? Like don't just be a copywriter that focuses on a specific industry, be an expert in something.
Yeah.
So for somebody who's just getting started in real estate investment and they're probably only doing wholesale, um, for right now anyway, not they're not ready to do subject to or anything like that. Do you suggest picking a niche, something you're good at, like really focus on probates, really focus on out of state landlords, really focus on something that in the market you're going to be working on where you can be an absolute expert in, or do you think it's necessary to kind of be an expert in just solutions for distressed properties?
I think you should pick something specifically. I absolutely do. For us, it was neighborhood. So we looked for neighborhoods that seemed to have houses that we could, push value with. For example, Charlotte, there was one especially hot at the time, still hot now, called Madison Park. And
Hmm.
houses were in a great location. They were all old. They all needed tons of renovation. And so we just canvassed that neighborhood over and over again. Like I wanted to know everybody that lived there, right? Like that
Yeah.
was the exact right property for us to flip. And again, I'm being specific about my criteria, the kind of house I want to flip, the kind of thing that I think we can increase in value because we were flipping. The same thing I think is relevant with wholesaling. And you really just, if you're not picking based on neighborhood, I think you should pick something that you understand. So maybe you understand divorce and all the crap that comes with a divorce because you've had personal experience. Maybe you understand probate because you just went through that with your, like, pick something that you personally really, really understand. Like there's probably one of those niches that you can identify with in some way. Like we're all human, have been through a lot, and know
Yeah.
people who've been through a lot. So I would suggest starting with what you're the most familiar with, and then going from there, one thing at a time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you can bridge that into what you're doing in your communications with launch control, right? So if you use the neighborhood specific example, it's, you can replace property city in launch control with the name of the neighborhood, right? Automate it, just add the merge field, right? But if people know that if you're using your initial outreach and you're getting in good basically within a neighborhood, and you're provide because end of the day, it's a solution, right? Like somebody had a problem, you provided the solution. So and even though you benefit from that deal, you're a solutions provider within that neighborhood.
Right.
And so that is going to give you an incredible amount of market presence, like more so than the website, more so than whatever free social media you're doing, or YouTube videos and the organic SEO, all of that stuff, which is free, right? But that the word of mouth that you can get within a specific neighborhood because you did provide a solution, and if somebody's in a similar position, they're going to trust the person that says, "Oh, I worked with Stephanie. She was great. She took her and her company took really good care of me." Like that can go a very long way. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with the pick a niche and get great at that and then scale from there.
Yeah, and I think that that positions you as a trusted professional instead of just this guerrilla warfare blasting. Like, oh, I said no, on to the next. People feel that. You know what I mean? We're all human beings. We know when we're being blasted versus when we're being specifically serviced. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. And everybody is, they have the awareness to know that, and the uh, you're always going to be able to capitalize more on a smaller handful of opportunities where people feel approached,
Right,
rather than when people feel like they're part of a marketing program, right?
right,
Like if they feel like they're a marketing program, that's when you get a bad, in a tech term, a bad user experience,
right.
right? They don't for obvious reasons they don't like that, right? So and we all know that what actually gets deals done is building trust and building rapport with the homeowner.
Yeah,
And to start that from the first text message is the smartest thing you can do. Like that's always going to be the most beneficial.
yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I think we kind of laugh about how people respond to our marketing. And one of the things that we always talk about is like, do you call the pizza flyers from Papa John's and yell at them for sending you a coupon? No, of course no one calls Papa John's and yells at them for sending a coupon, right?
Yeah.
And why is that? It's a different type of value prop that people trust already. There's a brand presence that they trust already. They're not pissed right out of the gate. Same thing if I got a cold text from Papa John's. Like I'm like, great, I don't really want pizza tonight. I'm not gonna stop and opt out because maybe I want pizza later. I'm gonna get my $5 off. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
all this stuff we have something to learn from it instead of kind of just like, brushing it off. All the homeowner's pissed. I send them a letter. Maybe we need to change the way we do it so that they don't have that same type of reaction. Maybe we want to emulate the Papa John's flyer in some way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's we I was speaking to Brad Bone about this in a recent episode. And it's that he said that on their television ads that they do, it actually does work better if they have a call us for an offer kind of approach, right? Where it's very like in the moment. But you have 30 seconds to get to capture their attention, maybe less. And you're not going to get multiple touch points from that, right? Unless there are multiple viewings, but really you're not going to get multiple touch points. But any marketing channel that you have the ability to nurture, you can and should nurture,
Right.
right? Because if, it's, yeah, yes, Papa John's sends you a text message, fine. But if, uh, if it's different if there's public information that you're really hungry. And because you're really hungry, now
Right.
you're getting a text message from Papa John's and Round Table and whatever other local pizza joints there are. And you're like, all right, this is the 15th text message I've gotten today for pizza. Like, enough. I get it. Right. So at that point, you have to stand out. You have to do something that's different than the competition. And that's often by being understanding and focusing on seller needs. Why? Why are you hungry? What do you need to fix about that? And not just saying pizza, 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 right? So, and you and I see this a lot in REI, which is that pizza, pizza, pizza approach where you just go as wide as you can, take the easy shot, and hope that it works, rather than solving in as early as possible the problem of well, how'd you get in this position? What do you want to do about it? What's the best timeline for you? And becoming a real solutions provider.
Right. And I think that's what separates the people who stay in business 10 years later versus the ones who don't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's kind of go back to your beginning a little bit, because I want to spend the rest of the time. We'll talk about Left Main and what you guys are doing, but I think this is kind of a good bridge into marketing and operations.
Yeah.
Is what was your kind of initial transition in marketing? Like, what did you do early stage, and then how did you kind of make that bridge to being somebody who really understands how to scale up operations, really understands how to funnel multiple marketing channels into a single source of truth, and really run your business from that place.
Well, we started kind of just grit and hustle, to be honest. We canvassed neighborhoods and hand wrote letters and put them in mailboxes. Then we progressed from there to something called every door direct mail, where you can pick a postal route. I'm like, oh, we can scale that. We don't have to drive around. Like we could just get a whole neighborhood based on postal route. But that was kind of cool, and that was a little hack, like of what we already tried to do. So we did that, and we would drop marketing of something personal, like it was picture me and my husband, look how cute and nice we look. You can call us and get an offer, right?
Mhm, yeah.
We're very friendly. We're raising a family here in this area too. We care about this market, blah, blah, blah. So we did marketing like that. And once we started buying houses and having some revenue, then we just started experimenting. Like we literally just tried stuff. We tried stuff that we heard other people were doing. And all of a sudden, we found ourselves in communities now and mastermind groups and local RIAs. A couple years into us banging stones together, we were like, "Oh, this is cool. There's communities." We were so clueless. It's really funny, but then we just started trying things, and trying lots of things felt very manic to me. I'm kind of an operator at heart. I like trying to predict. I like logarithmic thinking. If this, then this, and I like to make informed decisions. So when we were in the middle of that, like let's just try. Let's just throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks, and try all these different channels. That was probably the most chaotic point in my life where I lost the most sleep because I just didn't truly know what was working. All I knew was that the phone was ringing, that we were spending a ton of money, and I just didn't know what to do. You know. I did find that always having at least 3 to 5 active marketing channels was our sweet spot. Because even like, we'll get to how I sorted out that and like created a CRM and started looking at actual metrics of marketing. But I think really what I first concentrated on was what was my ROI versus my spend, and like what did it actually produce instead of just did my phone ring or not. Then I started feeling a little bit more in control. And then I felt like I could make better investments in marketing, just like I was trying to make investments in real estate. Like, okay, where can I put some funds and when am I going to see it churn out and all that. And what I found was the reason for that 3 to 5 was even if you were super consistent, you did all the same things every week, all the same, no matter what, one channel would ebb and flow a little bit. And if we kept 3 to 5, then our deal flow was stable. It was stable enough that we could predict our lead flow was stable enough that we could predict our deal flow.
Cool. So let's get into the LeftMain story then, because I go to the masterminds, I talk to people, and I know that LeftMain, especially as people are really scaling up, is really the go-to choice for CRM in the REI space. So how'd you get it started, and who are your kind of avatar clients now, so people listening in know when it's the right time to give you guys a call?
Yeah, again, I think the origin story is again not very sexy. Um, I kind of stumbled upon it, to be honest. Just like I was saying that I was feeling very chaotic. That was where we were. We were spending $100,000 a month in marketing, all the different channels, all the things, and mail was a huge piece of this. So expensive, but everybody said you got to do mail, right? So I was like, well, do mail. I don't know what's my response rate. 1%. I mean, we were like begging for a 1%, and we were just spending an atrocious amount of money to make the phone ring, and not really understanding what worked and what didn't, and like what actually produced anything. And then okay, we produced all these leads, but what happened to them? Like okay, we produced 100 leads, but we only bought at that point like probably two deals. What happened to the rest of the 98 leads? They're like lost, and you just where do they go in the abyss? So this was now probably 2018ish, shortly after we merged, and we had this big ability to dispo all kinds of different types of deals. Like we were buying land, we were buying houses, we could flip it, we could wholesale, we had all these options. So we had all these more leads. And I hit this kind of breaking point of not being able to sleep at night because I just didn't know why we didn't have money. Right? Like all these deals are happening. Why aren't we making more money? What the heck is going on? We have so many leads. Why aren't they turning into deals? And at that point in the business, I felt so personally just all in. Like this had to work, and
Hmm.
just couldn't understand what got me from A to B and why we weren't more profitable if we were generating so many leads. So there, probably like similar to other people, there was these kind of pointed solutions. We were very phone system dependent. There was some kind of abbreviated CRM type services we could use that were more project management type softwares than CRM really. Podio was a big one we were using then, and it just wasn't meeting the needs. I had no visibility, like things. It was just like a list I was scrolling through. It was felt really wild at the time. So I just got fed up. I was like, all right, I'm just going to buy the number one CRM in the world. What is that? Googled it. Salesforce. Okay, what's
Yeah.
Salesforce? I don't know what that is. So I went through that whole process with Salesforce to try to figure out how much it would be to build a solution. And try to keep a long story short, I got to the end of a very long sales process with them and a developer and all this stuff, and they quoted me $100,000 in a 6-month build, and then you could log in and be phase one, and then we'll build phase two. It just quickly unraveled to this $1 million project, and I just lost my mind. I was flabbergasted and shocked and disturbed and all the all the things, all the adjectives. And
Yeah.
I was like, how hard can this be? I'm just gonna build it for myself. That's it. And so I did. I just got really, really mad. And I felt so desperate for a solution because I really felt so all in on this business that it literally couldn't fail. And I felt that if I didn't understand a business pipeline, then there was no way we could be successful. Like we'd have to just change courses completely and just buy rentals and stop trying to build a business. You know what I mean? I really
Yeah.
felt at a huge crossroads. So I did that. It took about 3 months for me to figure out how to code and how to get it all set up and stood up for our company. And then we went live, and it was transformational for our business without a doubt. And then Salesforce approached me shortly after we had gone live and was basically like, "Did you give up? Like, do you want me to get that developer back?" And I was like, "No, I'm good. I did it. You can take me out of your follow up sequence. I'm good." And one of the employees there at Salesforce was like, "Well, really? Can I see it? You built something? Can I look?" I guess if this is what it's going to take for you to like leave me alone. All right, I'll
Right.
show you. And kind of, I don't know why she was so generous to say this, but she said, I think you have something here. Everybody that I talk to that's in the real estate field has the same reaction as you. Do you think that you'd be interested in partnering with us and getting this on the market? I was like, okay, I didn't even consider that. what does that look like? And then we kind of went into this whole discovery process and had to get, app exchange security review and all this whole process with Salesforce to become a partner and negotiate a contract and this whole thing. And we went live January 2020, which sounded like a great time to go live, right? January, 2020, fresh vision, it was all the thing. And anyway, it essentially, when I finally got over my fear to talk about it with people, because I really cared, and it was like so impactful for me that I was almost scared
Hmm.
to show people my baby and be like, "What do you think about my baby?" I grew it.
Yeah.
I was really nervous to talk about it for a long time, and at the end of 2020, I started to, because my friends, thankfully for their generosity, pushed me and said, you need to talk about it and to show it to people. And it went pretty viral from there. It's been incredible growth. Our definite avatar for users are real estate investors or real estate agents, brokers who have a cash offer program, which
Hmm.
are more and more so, like KW, EXP. They all have something now for cash offers, and
Yeah.
we do a lot of those agents and brokers on platform too. We're trying to kind of help with this off market acquisition game and disposition game, but yeah, that's the long story, relatively long, hopefully slightly abbreviated on that story.
Well, with launch control, we have our light subscription users tend to be people that are in the early stages of building their real estate investment business. By the time they get to the core package, they tend to be at the stage where they're bringing on a VA or VAs. They're scaling up. They may have a full time stateside acquisitions person, but if not, they're getting there. And then by the time they get to our pro or enterprise subscriptions, they're running big shops. They've got teams, and they're pretty their headaches tend to be operations, not deal flow, right?
Yeah.
So within those three kind of parameters, do you think that a left main is a good fit across the board, or do you think it's a better fit when they're into that operation scaling mode?
We definitely solve for operations as kind of our primary problem. But lead management is a big part of that. And it's kind of the first piece of the operations puzzle that people want solved. And we definitely help solve that lead management, follow up automation, all the way through to transaction coordination, marketing channel management, dashboard visibility, all kind of the gamut. But the first piece that people generally are like, shoot, I need to do something, is when they need help managing their leads because they have too many and their things are falling through the cracks. And most of the time, that's people who are definitely spending money on marketing, using tools like Launch Control for sure, have a handful or so of team members, and are looking to grow. If you're not looking to grow and you have one VA, two VAs, and buy a couple rental properties a year or so, like that's, you don't necessarily need a whole robust CRM. But if you're looking to build a business that's scalable, repeatable, predictable, then you're going to need operation support and a CRM, and that's kind of that's our avatar for sure. But
Yeah.
just because you're early stage and you want, it doesn't mean that it precludes you. It just needs to be on the roadmap. Like that's, you've got to want a business and build a business for it to be the right fit for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think operationally choosing early your kind of CRM path
Yeah.
is important. Like you can start off with a spreadsheet if you're just getting started,
And
right?
we
Like,
did. We had manila
yeah,
folders and we printed out Zillow listings and we were printing until
right. So,
we needed more.
but for people that are kind of unaware, anybody listening in that's really unaware of the world of CRMs, like what Stephanie has done is incredible. Like Salesforce is, yes, it's the number one CRM globally, but it is a system that big Fortune 500 companies pay tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, and they usually have an administrator that makes like 200 grand a year just to run it for them. Right? So it is not something that is that out of the box is REI friendly. So the fact that you got mad, as you said, and went in and did the work and made it something that is a, you know, we have an integrate launch control and left main have an integration. You can see all of your launch control messages right from your source of truth within the left main dashboard. And so I have experience with the LeftMain dashboard, and it's very easy to use. It's very dialed down to a sales funnel specific to REI. So the fact that you went and did this work and made it available to everybody, it's a gift to the REI industry, because without that, I don't think Salesforce is. I wouldn't recommend Salesforce out of the box for most REI companies. It's too much development. It's too much work. It's too much that you need to customize.
Out of the box is pretty much a blank slate that means a lot, and
Yeah.
partly what made me so mad is, we have these like pointed solutions kind of down here that are very specific and not very specific pain points like phone systems, but not great integration solutions for all the different systems that we use. And I was using like 5 or 6 different things to do one thing basically. And then there's nothing, and then there's huge enterprise solutions like Salesforce, HubSpot, Pipedrive, even could be good.
Right.
Horizontal, they're not industry specific, require a ton of customization, and there's just nothing in between. So my whole goal with this launch and what I pitched to Salesforce to get our deal was like, let's take this enterprise solution, let's bring it down market to small businesses and make it actually available to them. So the price point has to make sense for small businesses. You have to be able to leverage the entire platform, that all the things that Salesforce can do, but it has to be industry specific and it has to be ready day one, and it has to be affordable per user.
Yeah.
So we negotiated an incredible contract with them, and super grateful for them kind of taking a chance on us, you know what I mean? And letting
Yeah.
us establish the industry as worthwhile. Like we weren't to them before, we're too small, right? So I'm
Yeah.
I'm pretty proud to have gotten Salesforce on board. Like, oh, these people are real estate. We should pay attention to them, not just the big manufacturers of the world. So
Right.
I'm pumped to bring a solution because it's me. Like this affected my family, just like our small businesses, our real estate investment companies. These margins, these things make a difference in our families' lives. This IBM is looking to make 2% on a margin of some, like that's not interesting to me. What's interesting to me is transformation, digital transformation for an industry that should have been digitally transformed forever ago. It's such a complex thing that we're doing. Like, why are we in the caveman times, with our pen and paper and, our memory trying to serve us? So I get
Yeah.
all pumped up about that, but I think that it's been long overdue for our industry.
Well, and something that you and I have talked about is like I think you said, like, before you started all of this, right? Like you and your husband, and you're looking at the list and you closed 2 deals and you said, "Well, what happened to the other 98?"
Yeah.
Right? So there's the 2 sides of that I think that are really interesting. Is you have the efficiency side of things, which is, what you're leaning on CRMs for, right? And you're leaning on processes, and having a really good, like, multi-touch point conversion system for your team. And so there's the analytical side of it, but there's also the human side of it, right? That means that there were you got 2 deals, but that means that there were 98 homeowners, 98 individuals that matched a distressed profile and probably don't have MLS as an option. So that's 98
Mhm.
problems that didn't get solved,
Yeah.
right? So if the CRM and the efficiency based on the CRM and the systems that you have, or the sales conversion systems that you have as a team, can solve even a percentage extra of those 98 problems, like it's really beneficial for the seller because they get a solution they need, and the obvious profit impact for your company is amazing.
And that's what happens when you understand kind of your own pipeline math. You make a little tweak up at the top of your funnel with just lead conversion, like, oh, this is a qualified lead. Being able to qualify leads better and more often is a huge downstream effect. So the result of what happened with having an operating system and like an automation nurture and all this was we didn't have to spend $100,000 on leads. We could spend so much less on leads and brand new leads because very quickly most of our conversions came from our database that we already paid for. And
Yeah.
so what was really infuriating back then is like I would pay for a Facebook lead, right? And then have it 6 months later, they opt in on my website, pay for a PPC lead. I'm just like, I just paid double because I just called it
Right.
a system. Like, oh my gosh. So if we can just do a better job of our own management, our own internal operations, we don't have to have gigantic overheads. We can be so much more efficient and therefore profitable. You know?
Yeah, and if someone's clicking on a Facebook ad, right? And then let's say it's 3 weeks later or a month later, that same person is clicking on a PPC ad. Like, that just shows that the decision that they're not, we're talking about homes. They're not making a decision the day of.
Yeah.
There's a thought process behind it. There's a research process that goes behind it.
Yep.
So the more that you can create that system of engagement, nurturing, and letting them know that you're a resource, so that when they are ready to make that decision,
Yep.
you've been front and center the whole time, right? And that comes down to scripting and systems.
Yep. Yeah. And I challenge the listeners to say that if at least 50%, like it probably should be 70% of your leads, but if at least 50% of your leads aren't coming from follow up, you have a huge hole in your bucket. Huge. And
Absolutely.
every month you're just starting from zero again, because anything that just fell through the hole, you don't have access to anymore. That's it. Right. Without a doubt, the most valuable thing that my company owns is our database.
Yeah.
Especially now we're 10 years later, like 10 years of data of all the
Hmm.
opt-ins, like it's literally gold.
Yeah.
I just have to be mindful and have to have some sort of systems to churning through that gold and getting in front of people at the right time. And now there's just so many people in there, and over such a course of time that of course they're going to think of us first. They're gonna know who we are. They've heard from us 100 times,
Yeah. Yeah.
in the last 10
Yeah,
years.
there's a pre-built trust, right? And so, yeah,
Exactly.
well, that's great. Okay, so as we start to wrap this thing up, a couple questions for you.
Okay.
Um, mentorship and education are a big thing for people at every stage, right? So, what are a couple of suggestions you might have for people for groups that they can follow, just in general, how to find mentorship, or even books to read, but just in that education and mentorship space, any advice that you have for listeners?
Yeah, go out and find them for sure. I wish we had found mentorship and masterminds and communities earlier. Oh, I just didn't have any idea that they existed. I was so pleasantly surprised. But they do, they're everywhere. Every market has a local RIA where you can meet up with people. Go on meetup.com and join Facebook groups and find your people. They're out there without a doubt. And just talk about what you're doing and what you're interested in. You'll be surprised to who comes out of the woodwork and is also interested and also has resources, and just the amount of networking that can happen at a pretty quick pace. But you have to talk about it. You have to tell people you're interested in real estate, you're interested in investing, you're trying to invest, you are investing, you're getting, you're in this neighborhood. You just have to talk about it. There's nothing more powerful than word of mouth and networking. So talk about it and then get into those rooms where other people are.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. For everybody listening, I'm going to put, if you're listening in, the URL for LeftMain REI is, or if you're watching, it's at the bottom of the screen. If you're just listening in, it will be in the episode description. So be sure to reach out to Stephanie and her team. As I mentioned, we have an integration with Launch Control. So if you are a Launch Control user and you want to get started with LeftMain or integrate LeftMain, you can do that right from in the app and work with both of our onboarding teams. If you're interested, if you're coming in fresh and you want to come in and use both systems together, our teams know each other well. We'll make sure that you get integrated and optimized in the best possible way. So please do that. And yeah, I think that's it. So thanks for coming on. Always a pleasure to talk to you. I really appreciate the insight.
Yeah, I feel we could talk for a while. I appreciate you bringing me on and chatting.
No, for sure. We'll do it again. We'll make it a semi-regular occurrence and catch up.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks, Stephanie. Bye.
Bye.